The landscape of NBA prospects has changed drastically in the past few seasons, with some of the best players making the transition from college ball to farm leagues, like the G League or the Overtime Elite League. With this ever-changing environment, it is becoming more and more difficult to weigh the value of prospects in their comparative leagues. In this 4-part series, I will be analyzing the top 5 prospects with an honorable mention in each of the 3 major areas NBA prospects are currently playing: farm leagues, college ball, and international play. Then I will be determining the top 10 current NBA prospects and making a lottery mock draft based on my findings. In this first episode, we're going to be taking a look at some of the best prospects in the new era of farm leagues and discuss the impact that they will have on an NBA team. We'll start with our honorable mention and someone who I believe has a ton of potential, who's G League guard CD Sissoko. In the G League this season, he's averaging 9.3 points, 2.9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 0.8 steals and blocks respectively. He's listed from 6'6 to 6'8, and he's 200 pounds at 18 years old. Before he came to the G League, Sissoko was playing in the Spanish Second League in 2021, where he caught the eye of scouts due to his unique blend of size, strength, and speed. During this time, he led the U18 Spanish Championship in both points and assists, and was clearly the best player on the court. Being 6'8" at a guard position makes that easy. In the 2022 summer before joining the Ignite, he participated in the FIBA U18 European Championship for France, where he averaged 11.3 points and 4.9 assists. His long build makes him offensively scary at guard and a force on defense, with the ability to match up 1 through 4 pretty effectively. He's also always in control and rarely forces shots. Overall, he has a great feel for the game. He's comparable to players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Drew Holiday in that respect, although he's not nearly as developed. He's currently playing as largely a 3-and-D player on the Ignite. However, I could see him making his way into a more prominent role on a team. Most mock drafts have him just outside the first round right now, but I could easily see him being in the top 25 or even making his way into the top 20. He even said himself that he wanted to be in the top 10 from the start of the season, however he hasn't gotten enough minutes to do so. On the national side of things, Sissoko will be playing for France, joining the likes of Victor Wembanyama, Evan Fournier, and Rudy Gobert, so France will definitely be a force when these players are all playing at a high level, which could make them a threat to the United States' reign of dominance. Our first player making the top 5 is G League forward center Leonard Miller. He's a 6'10", 211-pound 19-year-old, and he's averaging 15.1 points, 8.6 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 1.2 steals, and 0.6 blocks per game for the Ignite this season. He's been one of the best players for the Ignite this season, and he's even spent some minutes taking the ball up the floor. Miller has spent most of his time with the Ignite playing in the front court. However, less than 3 years ago, he was a 6'4", 11th man on his high school team. Having to learn how to play guard has made him a unique offensive threat, being able to shoot, take the ball up the floor, just do whatever you need as a guard. His build and play style is something I could see a lot of players transferring into in the future, but he's going to be one of the first players in this new movement. Now, it's not like some skilled big men haven't already existed. Obviously, you've got guys like Jokic who've been running the league, and Giannis as well in that mix. But Leonard Miller's ability at his size to bring the ball up the court is something not a lot of players can do. This new era of skilled big men is already kind of come into effect, and Leonard Miller is really going to fit well into that mix, I feel like. My one complaint about Miller's game is that his inside game looks a little unrefined at times, but that makes sense given the fact that he hasn't had this body for longer than about 3 years. This is what makes Miller such an interesting prospect for me. You don't really hear about guys having 8-inch growth spurts in their senior year at high school. He had to, and I would argue is still, adjusting to his new frame, which is even more impressive given the fact that he's been such a dominant force for the G League. Raw talent is some of the most exciting prospects for me to watch, and Leonard Miller is the epitome of this. I don't see too many players like Leonard Miller, and that's why his development's going to be so exciting for me. The next 5 years could see a rise to stardom for Miller. And his raw talent's just waiting to be unleashed. He's currently projected in the top 25, but I could easily see him being selected in the lottery. The blend of size, speed, athleticism, and raw skill at many different positions have made Leonard Miller the ideal selection for number 5 on my list of the top 5 Farm League prospects. And now we're getting into the really exciting prospects. At number 4, we have Cold Hearts from OTE, guard Rob Dillingham. Dillingham is 6'1", 175 pounds, and 17 years old. For this season, he's averaging 15.7 points, 3.2 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 2.3 steals, and 0.5 blocks per game. Rob is only technically Farm League for right now because next season he's taking his talents to Kentucky University. He's an incredibly shifty guard and even has a little bit of bounce. If anybody reminds me of Kyrie Irving or Allen Iverson, it's Rob Dillingham. He's just so flashy that you never really know what he's going to do next. He'll pull in any contested area and is largely a microwave. He's virtually unstoppable when he's hot, and he's an elite scorer from all three levels. Rob has been seen as one of the best scorers in all of high school, and it's clear to see why. His ability to get above the rim while being such a small, shifty guard has made him virtually unstoppable, like I've said. Many scouts have questioned his defensive integrity, but I personally don't see it. 2.3 steals per game and half a block per game. I know it's just numbers, but given those numbers, he's been an elite defender in a league where there's very little defense. Even in this game for Donda Academy, he had the game-saving steal and over 30 points. The game in the background now is the game where Rob really gained national attention. He put up 36 points on 64% shooting and 65% from 3. It was the inaugural game of the OTE season, and Rob made his case for why he's one of the best guards in the program. He's just so undeniably fluid with the ball, and he can score from any layer, like I've said, but I needed to reiterate. Bro is good. Many of the major mock draft sites have him going just outside the first round in the 2024 draft, but I personally don't see it. I think Rob is a top 10 talent, and depending how far Kentucky makes it in March Madness, he could easily work his way into the top 5. However, time will tell, and we'll have to wait and see on Rob's development as a defensive player and as a leader on the court. Right now, Dillingham is my number 4 prospect in the Farm League system, but next season I could easily see him being a top 5 prospect in college ball as well. While it makes sense to question his defensive integrity given his offensive skill, I don't personally see it, and I think that anyone questioning Rob's defensive mindedness hasn't watched the game. Dillingham has been one of the best defenders in a league where it's been largely an all-star game. Just look at what he just did. That's all-star game type stuff. But with all that being said, given all of his skills, I see Rob Dillingham as my number 4 prospect in the Farm League system. Coming in at a tie for numbers 2 and 3, we have twin brothers Amen and Asir Thompson. They're possibly the best twins to ever play basketball, and they're guard forwards for the City Reapers in the OTE League. They're both 6'7", 202 pounds, and they're both 19 years old, obviously. They're both averaging about the same stats, with Asir averaging more points, rebounds, steals, and blocks, but Amen being more the point guard of the team, averaging more assists. Their impact on the floor is almost identical, go figure, which is what makes it difficult to analyze them as individual prospects. So I'm going to put them both in this part and just analyze them together. Most mock drafts have Amen and Asir both drafted in the top 7, with Amen slightly higher rated than Asir, but for me they're personally interchangeable. They're both elite finishers above the rim, and their finishing package at the rim is NBA ready at the very least. That's where most of their points come, however, which has a lot of scouts worried about their shooting ability, and I can't say I blame them. It's rare to see guards of their size be little more than finishing inside and making a few passes. However, this season they've really both put the work in to try to get better at shooting from 3. Right now I think Asir is the better 3-point shooter, and he's averaging about 33%, whereas Amen is averaging 20.8% this season. However, it's been limited shots. I do think it's something to be aware of, however, and it shows how great these already great players can be if they just get a little bit better at shooting. The brothers' best game this season was also the first game, where the City Reapers took on the Falcons. They were down 11 points with 7 minutes left, but Amen and Asir had other ideas. Asir took over and had multiple threes, multiple defensive stands, and multiple mid-range shots to keep the game close, and eventually win the game. Keep in mind, the City Reapers won the championship last season and haven't lost a game since. I think it showed great mental toughness because neither of the brothers were celebrating or overreacting to any different thing that happened in the game. Just right here, Asir got fouled on a 3 to put his team up 3 after being down quite a bit and didn't even react. The thing that I was most impressed about with this game was Asir's mental toughness and ability to focus when he was shooting game-winning free throws. I think the brothers are both locks to go in the top 10 in the NBA draft this year, and given all their talents, they're the surefire 2 and 3 in my top 5 Farm League prospects. Coming in at number 1 is a guy that I'm sure a lot of you expected when you clicked on this video. Scoot Henderson, point guard for the G League Ignite, has been one of the best guard prospects we've ever seen. At 6'2", 195 pounds, he's been putting up 21.1 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game, and 1.6 steals per game for the Ignite in only 6 games. Scoot was well publicized last year for being a 17-year-old guard playing for the G League Ignite. However, this year he gained national attention playing against Victor Wembanyama in one of the most anticipated scouting games of all time. His explosiveness has been compared to Russell Westbrook in his prime, and his shooting ability and court vision has been compared to Chris Paul, which is two incredible players to be compared to as just an 18-year-old. In the game against Wembanyama, he didn't just make an impact as a scorer, however, he did have 28 points. What impressed me most about that game was his ability to find passes like that and keep his team at an advantage when he couldn't score himself. Although at the end of this game he wasn't scoring nearly as much, he still had 27 points for the game and made passes like this to keep the game out of reach for the Metropolitan. And when he wasn't getting shots for his teammates, he was finding them himself, hitting this mid-range with 4 minutes left. In the background now are some of Scoot's highlights from the 2021-2022 G League season, where he showed his clear bounce as a 17-year-old against grown men. There isn't much more I can say about Scoot, other than the fact that he's probably the best guard prospect to come out of the G League, and he's probably the best guard prospect I personally have ever seen. The fact that he's more than likely going to be the second guy drafted this year is a crime, and in any other year he'd be the #1 pick for almost any team. Scoot Henderson has obvious star potential, and it's clear why he was the #1 pick in my best farm league prospects. So that's going to do it for this video, you guys. Let me know in the comments what I should change, what I should do differently. I'm kind of new to this whole YouTube thing, so I would really appreciate some feedback. I'm going to have more videos coming out doing more prospect analysis, so if you want to see more, like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.